All right, welcome to Occult Topics with the Professor. We're getting back into the Tarot correspondence. If you're new to Occult Topics with the Professor, I cover various topics on occultism, from dream studies to astral projection to creating thought forms. There's a wide variety of topics, but the main thing is gnosis, which is knowledge of self. And so what we're going to be diving into now is this tarot correspondence. What's up, bud?
I'm being yours.
All right, go
I
ahead.
think you're on YouTube.
Yeah, I'm on YouTube. So without further ado, let's get it cracking. Did I wake you up, bud?
Okay.
Did I wake you up?
No, you did.
Oh, okay.
I'm just going straight through that and then
Okay.
kind of.
All right. Before we dive in, I've got to say thank you. Thank you for tapping in. Thank you for tuning in. Definitely thank you for spending even a moment of your time, because time is the ultimate sacrifice in this busy society that we live in. If you've been reading my correspondences, tarot correspondences, then you know that initially I started off doing one a week. My work schedule changed, and now I'm lucky not lucky. Now I get it in every 2 weeks, about every 13 days to be exact. So, having said that, welcome to Occult Topic with the Professor. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, share, and let's do it. This first book that we're going to go out of is Barbara G. Walker's The Secrets of Tarot, Origins, History, and Symbolism. I've been trying to get caught up just by reading through the book. I love Barbara G. Walker. The information she drops is always outstanding. So we can get down to the good part. Oh, maybe I should give away a book today. I probably will. Stick around, drop an Easter egg, and get you a free book. I actually have an extra copy of Dion Fortune's Mystical Kabbalah that I've been meaning to give away. So if you're into Kabbalah or just into free stuff, hang around. Now, in this book, I'm on page 35, Wheels of Becoming. Everyone who has ever studied mathematics knows the symbol for infinity, the lemesque or lemescate, something like that. A horizontal figure 8, 2 tangential circles, sometimes called lemenscape. Along with the rest of our Arabic mathematical signs, this actually came to Europe through the Middle East from India. Like all numerical symbols, it was originally numinous or holy. We are familiar with its connotations in ancient sacred dances as the figure 8, hey, traced on as the figure 8, hey, H-E-Y, traced on the earth by stepping in a circle clockwise, then in another circle counterclockwise. The infinity sign carried a particular significance in the tarot. It first appeared as a broad-brimmed hat or halo over the head of the magician, trump number 1, a male figure leading the first decade of cards. It next appeared as an identical broad-brimmed hat or halo over the head of the goddess of strength, trump number 11. Also leads the first 10 as well as the second 10. It's interesting to note. A female figure leading the second decade of cards. It appeared for a third time on the Deuce of Pentacles, formerly the key card of the minor arcana, which bore the card maker's signature like the Ace of Spades in modern decks. Now, I want to say this before I get started, because I meant to bring it up at the beginning. I've really been looking forward to the Chariot card. I don't know why. I had fabulous downloads to the Lover's card. And I'm so glad that I was motivated to start this tarot correspondence, more so just for my own edification. what I'm doing now, I don't consider this dropping jewels. I'm just sharing as I research for myself. But the Lover's card, so far, each card has impacted my consciousness almost immediately and in sequence. So it's telling a definite story. Nature of my dreams have definitely changed. The Lover's card was very significant. Maybe at some point when I get to Paul Foster Case's book, Tarot, The Wisdom of the Ages, maybe I'll double back real quick and read that last like 6 paragraphs because it literally blew my mind. And I saw the Lover's Tarot card everywhere. But for some reason, I had been anticipating, looking forward to the Chariot card. And a few times I found my mind wandering to Abraxas. So initially I thought Abraxas, he's known for being a Chariot, but I'm curious to see because I haven't been studying either. Like I said, I've been working 12 hours a day. I haven't been doing any cheating. I've just been focusing on meditating and doing dream meditations and dream recall on the downloads I got from the Lover's card. But whenever my mind drifted to the Chariot, Abraxas came up more than once. So I'm curious to see if there's a connection to Abraxas. I actually have a book in there by Manly P. Hall, which I know I'm not going to get, but I just want to drop that. Getting back to the good part, it says here, let me go back and read the last paragraph. The infinity sign carried a peculiar significance in the tarot. It first appeared as a broad-brimmed hat or halo over the head of the magician, trump number 1, a male figure leading the first decade of cards. It next appeared as an identical broad-brimmed hat or halo over the head of the goddess of strength, trump number 11, a female figure leading the second decade of cards. It appeared for a third time on the Deuce of Pentacles, formerly the key card of the Minor Arcana, which bore the card maker's signature like the Ace of Spades in modern decks. It was customary to encircle the 2 pentacles or coins with the mystic world symbol of 2 serpents swallowing each other's tails, or 1 serpent swallowing its own tail. The direction of the serpent's coiled body showed that 1 circle was to be drawn clockwise, the other counterclockwise. The word deuce, medieval Deuceus, came from the Latin deus, God. So one might expect the deuce of the earth elemental suit to convey an important message in addition to the card maker's name. Now that's amazing to me about the origin of the word deuce, because everybody does this. Deuce, it means peace, I'm out. Deuces. I thought that was, I like that. That's the kind of stuff to me that, that's what Barbara G. Walker does. She drops these little juicy little tidbits. I'm gonna put a little Ganesh on, so rock with me. I'm gonna put a little Ganesh on. Now Ganesh should pop up. Om Ganapataye Namaha. Oh, I didn't delete it out. Oh, wow, come on, Mike. I was excited because I was falling in love with you. Now that I'm falling, what am I gonna do? I am beside myself. Ganapataye Namaha. Yeah, I thought that was a juicy little tidbit that she dropped. Let's get a little volume on that. Yeah, about the word deuce and its relation to, it's Latin for Deus, like Madre de Dios, Deus, D-E-U-S for God. So let me see. I know the glare is vicious, man. I don't even know why I'm even attempting to show this. What she has here, this chapter is called The Wheels of Becoming. She has the infinity symbol, number 8, one going clockwise, the other going counterclockwise. The top is going clockwise, and the bottom wheel is going counterclockwise. The top wheel consists of the Fool, Magician, the Papess, the Empress, the Emperor, the Pope, the Lovers, the Chariot, Justice, and the Hermit. And then the number 10 card, Wheel of Fortune. And then the other wheel, which is going counterclockwise, consists of the number 11 card, Strength, Hanged Man, Death, Temperance, the Devil, the House of God, Star, the Moon, the Sun, Judgment, and the World. So we have here all 22 of the major arcana. And I'm certain, let's see. The serpent seems to be demonstrating a card layout of 2 conjoined circles. The first, male, the magician; the second, female, strength. A clue to its meaning is provided by the tantric symbolism of the infinity sign. The first clockwise circle followed by the sun. The first clockwise circle followed by the sun. I'm trying to look at, okay. The first clockwise circle the first clockwise circle followed the sun. Also, clockwise is following the sun. How so? Well, I'll get that. I'll put that on the mental, do a thought experiment on that. And represented right hand path of the god of Shiva. That is a daytime world of outward appearances. The second counterclockwise circle followed the moon, like the Wintershin's circle dance of European witches. It represented the left-hand path of Shiva's eternal beloved Kali, the night world of mystery, fate, the soul, and the true inner meaning, called Vamakara, the way of the goddess. So the sun is Shiva, the moon is Kali, which makes sense. The clockwise and counterclockwise rotations. All over Indo-European culture complex, it was generally accepted that movement toward the right hand in the solar direction involved male gods. Now, okay, it's sunk in. I made the connection because Luna Suna breathing, right nostril solar, masculine, left nostril lunar, feminine. And you do the exercises. You can do the breathing exercises, the pranic exercises where you focus on, just for instance, inhaling through the right nostril, exhaling through the left, inhaling, exhaling strictly through the right nostril, or you might inhale through the mouth and exhale through only one nostril. You might hold, and you can do it vice versa. I've had excellent results from Luna and Suna breathing, just through breathing techniques, period. Normally, I would do those techniques either prior to meditating or prior to reading. Also, I would use incense to get me in that mood. And when I say use incense, I mean literally I would choke myself out. Not choke, that's a bad word, but I would burn a lot of incense at one time because incense can help put you in an altered state of mind. So, yeah. I'm gonna read this last paragraph I just read over. All over the Indo-European culture complex, by Indo-European referring to India, Hindus, all over the Indo-European culture complex, it was generally accepted that movement toward the right hand in the solar direction invoked male gods, whereas movement in the other lunar direction invoked manifestations of the goddess. Oh, I went ahead already. Well, that's all good. let's go. All over the Indo-European culture complex, it was generally accepted that movement toward the right hand in the solar direction invoked male gods, whereas movement in the other lunar direction invoked manifestations of the goddess. Egyptians said that the left hand stood for the goddess Ma'at, mother of truth. The right hand stood for her consort, Thoth, patron of magicians. Babylonians prayed, let my goddess stand at my left hand, let my God stand at my right hand. Hindus represented existence as a two-sexed entity whose right side was male and whose left side was female. Idols of Kali and Shiva sometimes show the two deities thus combined in a single figure. The infinity sign meant infinity for the very reason that it symbolized their union, male and female, matter and spirit, reason and inspiration, conscious and unconscious, functions forever inseparable. To have your thoughts in alignment. Now, the beauty of this coming behind the Lover's card is because we learned last week that the Lover's card represented self-consciousness, subconsciousness, and superconsciousness. That angel in the center was the superconsciousness. The self-consciousness, which is the masculine, which is the active, makes the suggestion. The suggestion being the symbol, sigil, mantra, any way you choose to plant direction or plant a seed in your subconscious. Any way you choose to effectively unite the masculine and feminine aspects of your consciousness. So this card, to me, out the gate, I'm talking about the card. I just see how what we read last week ties into this infinity symbol and what Barbara G. Walker is breaking down right now. So she says this sign, 3 times pointed out by traditional tarot designs, has been called the first key to the secrets of the major arcana. It must be noted that some of the tarot decks designed after 1900 arbitrarily exchanged Trump's number 11 and number 8. I've noticed that already myself. So Strength with her Mesgate had no longer led the second circle of cards. Apparently, this was the original idea of the Golden Dawn Society, to make the major arcana fit an astrological system. Earlier designs always put the feminine bearer of the affinity sign in the number 11 slot, as she initiated the second left-hand Wintershin cycle. When the trumps are laid out in the shape of the infinity sign, the cards of the first solar circle face outward toward the world of material concerns. The cards of the second lunar circle face inward toward the spiritual realm of inner meanings. Each card in the first circle corresponds to a card in the second. Numbers of matching cards add up to 20. The fingers into, numbers of the matching cards add up to 20. The fingers and toes numbers that was held sacred by Indo-Arabic numerologists. There is one exception. The 2 cards showing rounded mandalas, the wheel of fortune and the world, cross each other in the center of the design. The world, 21, or last trump lies on top, completing the sequence with her 20 and with her 1 signaling a new birth. Let me take a look. Let me read that again. When the trumps are laid out in the shape of infinity sign, the cards of the first solar circle face outward toward the world of material concerns. The card of the second lunar circle face inward toward the spiritual realm of inner meanings. Each card in the first circle corresponds to a card in the second. Oh, okay. So having said that, the Fool will correspond to Strength, the Magician to the Hangman, the Papess to Death, etc., etc. Okay. Numbers of matching cards add up to 20. The fingers and toes number that was held sacred by Indo-Arabic numerologists. There is one exception. The 2 cards showing rounded mandalas, The wheel of fortune and the world cross each other in the center of the design. Gotcha. The world, number 21, or last trump, lies on top, completing the sequence. Oh, the world and the wheel of fortune is the Lemescate. Okay, I knew my mind was grasping at something. The world and the wheel of fortune card are the Lemescate, with the world on top and the wheel of fortune on the bottom. Wheel of fortune being feminine and the world being, no, the wheel of fortune being masculine and the world being feminine. We'll get to that because she said that the world card is on top. Could be a Lilith reference. I would have thought the world would be on the bottom, but to receive, right? But we'll see. We'll get to what she means eventually. Pretty sure it'll work itself out. This arrangement reveals several heretical views that were current in the 14th century. The figure of the Pope, number 5, in the material world is seen to correspond to the devil, number 15. Let's see. Yep, it sure does. Booyaka, booyaka. I'll bring it straight to you. The two figures display similar poses. We'll check that out. And each has a pair of worshipers at his feet. They both do. Here is a symbolic presentation. However, the Pope has two men. At least the devil got a man on. I don't know. That make any difference. Like, I'm sure it does. Here's a symbolic presentation of the Gnostics' opinion that the Roman Church was the synagogue of Satan and its Pope was the Antichrist. The Papess, number 2, however, corresponds to the moon, number 18, in the spiritual realm, as if a female Pope were still associated with the lunar religion. A crescent moon usually appeared on the Pappus card. On the Pappus's card. Clergymen seem to regard the Pappus with special distaste, so much so that in later pacts she was replaced with the goddess Juno or even by a man. Most modern pacts call her the High Priestess. Some knowledge of the Renaissance period is needed to interpret the connection of the Emperor, number 4, with the number 16 trump, variously called the Lightning Struck Tower or the House of God. The organization of the medieval church was sometimes known as the Proud Tower or the White Tower. The organization of the medieval church was sometimes known as the Proud Tower. A much repeated Gnostic prophecy foretold its destruction by Lucifer, whose name means light bringer, and whose weapon was the same lightning wielded by the elder gods. It was said in the 14th century that both Italian and French Gnostics worshiped Lucifer and believed him to be the brother of God, wrongly cast out of heaven. Under an oppressive theocracy, the Gnostic sects yearned for the predicted coming of a deity of light to blast the tower, as the card showed. Oddly enough, the very same scene was carved in stone on a panel of Reims Cathedral, as if executed by one of the Gnostic brothers of Freemasons, who slyly inserted many pagan concepts into the fabric of the churches. On both the tarot card and the cathedral, both figures were shown falling from the tower's crown as the lightning bolt struck it. If one figure was intended to be the Pope, the other could only have been the Emperor, suggesting a catastrophic downfall of both church and state. In fact, there was a popular belief that soon a people's revolution would overthrow the established church together with a great monarchy, presumably the Holy Roman Empire. Afterward, there would be a new age of social equality and peace among all classes. The coming of the new age may have been signaled in tarot symbolism by the naked goddess pouring out her blessings on land and sea. On the card following the tower's destruction, trump number 17, the star.
I think I should do two black cam on there.
For sure. I think you got it in you, bud. If you want to, we can do one tomorrow.
Okay, I want to do one tomorrow because.
All right, man.
I can put on my lips, please, because they're kind of chapped.
Let me get you. Let me hook you up. Let me pause this for a moment. All right, let's get back to it. You need some chapstick. When the wheel of coming. Way past that. That's what I couldn't find. Okay. Then we were here. It says on both the tarot card and the cathedral, two figures were shown falling from the tower's crown as the lightning bolt struck it. If one figure was intended to be the Pope, the other could only have been the Emperor, Trump number 4, suggesting a catastrophic downfall of both church and state. In fact, there was a popular belief that soon a people's revolution would overthrow the established church together with the great monarchy, presumably the Holy Roman Empire. Afterward, there would be a new age of social equality and peace among all classes. The coming of the new age may have been signaled in tarot symbolism by the naked goddess pouring out her blessings on land and sea. On the card following the tower's destruction, Trump number 17, the star, her earthly manifestation in the other sphere was the Empress. So I just for me, what crossed my mind just now is that a lot of this symbolism is rooted, is connected to the time period in which you live in. Pretty sure now, most people view the tower card kind of in connection with that Illuminati card with the Twin Towers falling and things like that. So just that these symbols, they grow and take on the meaning. Thus, it seems tarot symbolism called for a return to the feminine principle, at least in part. This was actually attempted in the Code of Mary, who, like the Empress, was identified with the star as Stella Maris, star of the sea. Mary was also addressed as an empress and lady of all the world, as well as a new version of the ancient triple goddess. According to the Speculum Beatae Mariae, Queen of Heaven, where she is enthroned in the midst of angels, Queen of Earth, where she constantly manifests her power, and Queen of Hell, where she has authority over all the demons. It was the Marian cult that brought the rosary into Christian use about the 12th century, but the rosary was copied from Cowley's rose wreath. Oh, I didn't know that. Japamala, the necklace of mantras used for many centuries in the East to keep track of repetitive prayers. Cowley's rosaries also formed the infinity sign of a sacred mandala for meditation. Through the churchman's though churchman's hostility to the major arcana must have been based on implications of heresy, there was more to the tarot message than simple opposition to Christian patriarchy. The infinity sign was not invented in Europe to vex the clergy. It was invented by Eastern mystics to represent the eternal cycles of becoming. That's why she calls it the wheels of becoming. Take this watch off. Why she calls it the wheels of becoming. What was I? The infinity sign was not invented in Europe to vex the clergy. It was invented by Eastern mystics to represent the internal cycles of becoming. Samsara. governed by the goddess's karmic wheels. The solar and lunar paths eternally circling, merging one into the other, refer to the typical Eastern doctrine of the eternal rebirth or transmigration migration of souls. If you've been rocking with me, you know that I find the overall impression of Tarot to be feminine in nature, and it can be traced back to Kybele, Sybil, Magna Mater. And so I do agree that it's a return to the divine feminine, but not in the way that everybody thinks. And I don't mean that in a bad or good way, just what is. If you look at the world today, all I would say is, if you haven't caught my breakdown on Sybil, Magna Mater, check it out. You know exactly where I'm getting at. And the world that we live in today is all designed to feed her. She never went nowhere. And people look up and they wonder what's going on. And that's what it is. I'll leave it at that. Because that could be a whole other get down. Where was I? The solar and lunar paths eternally circling, merging one into the other, refer to the typical Eastern doctrine of eternal rebirth or transmigration of souls. The theory was that each living creature spent a period in the daylight world on what was called the sublunar sphere, then another period in the other world awaiting a new birth. The corollary belief was that all flesh is alike in essence, and so is all spirit. Forms change, but the basic material of life is forever the same. What science today classifies as matter and energy cannot be destroyed, merely transformed. Nothing new under the sun, nothing new under Tiferet. Pre-Christian religions generally espouse this doctrine. The writings of Pythagoras taught the spirit wanders, comes now here, now there, it occupies whatever frame it pleases. From beast, it passes into human bodies, and from our bodies into beasts, but never perishes. Plato's Republic spoke of Greek heroes in the underworld choosing their bodies for the next incarnation. The same heroic privilege was extended to tantric enlightened ones in the intermediate state. Greek mystics spoke of the kykelos geneseon, cycles of becoming, as much as their Hindu counterparts did. The rebirth doctrine was common in ancient Greece, and it was a lofty philosophical principle among cultured Greeks who were initiates of the mysteries. You'll just find, I've discovered that you will see the same things repeated over time, maybe with a better or a different understanding, but it's the same information. It's going in a spiral. Most assume, like even this affinity symbol, we assume that the affinity symbol is flat, but the affinity symbol actually is like taking a piece of paper and like folding it. It's a spiral. And the spiral is there because that's the quickest way for ascent and descent. But in our case, it's a combination of both, but the ultimate goal is ascension. Okay. Among the most popular mysteries were those of Orphism, which continued long into the Christian era, often as a preferred alternative to the mysteries of the Christian church. Orpheus and Christ were sometimes worshipped side by side in the same chapels as a savior figure. Orpheus was an older Christos, anointed one, who had suffered martyrdom, descended into hell, and rose again from the dead, bearing esoteric secrets of the afterworld to impart to initiated followers. The most important Orphic manual, The Descent into Hades, described the geography and personages of the underworld so that the enlightened ones would know how to deal with them and how to achieve a blessed rebirth. Initiated ones partook of a sacramental communion feast that assimilated them to the deity himself and enabled them to share this resurrection. Orphic sacramentalism flowed into the later mystery cults, including Christianity, which copied its baptismal and communion ceremonies. The history of Western religion owes much to Orphism though the debt was never acknowledged. That's mind-blowing. Like I just said moments before, you see that all these things just are on an eternal loop. So there are people right now that believe that Christianity is something new to the earth, and it is not. Christianity is an amalgamation. It's been borrowed from so many different. It's just been borrowed from so many different traditions. I'll use this bookmark that I said I wouldn't use. I took it away. Where's my bookmark? I need to mark this place because we're gonna go move on. Yeah, I'll jack this one. I'll take this. All right. Now we're gonna go to her information on the chariot. So we stop right here on page 40. I want to go to the chariot. So I could get caught up reading this all day. Justice. Okay, number 7, chariot. The 7th trump was alternatively named the chariot, or the triumphal car, or the king in triumph. Remember, triumph means trump. In traditional designs, it showed a young hero riding high, apparently successful in both love and battle. I wonder what would suggest love. Raised to the 7th degree of initiation, or newly arrived at the peak of full early manhood at the age of 21, 7 times 3. According to the Yoni Yantra layout with its 4 pillars and its blue canopy spangled with stars, the chariot clearly represented the world. The hero seemed to be in command of it, paralleling the experience of life itself. The tarot made a place for young adult arrogance, paralleling the experience of life itself. The tarot made a place for young adult arrogance. In a brief moment of conviction that some sort of paradise had been attained following the card of marriage. That was a mouthful. Paralleling experience of life itself, the tarot made a place for young adult arrogance. In a brief moment of conviction that some sort of paradise had been attained following the card of marriage, which is the lovers, right? So this could be the son of the lovers, I guess, and he reached 21. In consequence of his marriage, Kali's consort Shiva attained the character of Jagannatha, Lord of the world. His world was envisioned as a gigantic chariot rolling along the track of time. Great tantric temples were built at Khajuraho and Kanarat to represent this world chariot, wheels and all. During the god's annual triumphal procession, his image was enthroned on another enormous chariot drawn by his worshippers, some of whom sought a martyr's death by throwing themselves under its ponderous wheels. Trampled by time, huh? From this Hindu practice of self-sacrifice came the English word juggernaut. I had no idea. A corrupted form of the chariot god's title. The juggernaut can't be stopped. That actually does make sense. Dang. The Lord of the world stood for transitory earthly glory, like temporal. Like every Oriental god king, he was doomed to the inevitable fall after his day of pride. Another cycle of death and resurrection would follow his triumph. This would be the reason for a numerical correspondence between the tarot chariot and the card of death, 13. It was thought necessary that a hero should be mindful of his karmic debt, even at the pinnacle of his glory. Death lurked in the background. The Oriental courtiers piously greeted their rulers with the formula, "O king, live forever." Everyone knew that the king must die. The practical Romans never tried to disguise even a ruler's mortality. When a Roman hero was honored in his triumphal parade, a masked figure of death stood at his shoulder in the chariot, whispering in his ear, "Man, remember you are mortal." That will keep the ego in check. Wowzer. The prototypical Roman hero charioteer was the god Mars, son of blessed virgin Juno. The 20th century Liber Imaginum Deorum said Mars and his chariot symbolized leadership, glory, war, and death. Okay, let's go back. The prototypical Roman hero charioteer was the god Mars, son of the blessed virgin Juno. The 12th century Liber Imaginum Deorum said Mars and his chariot symbolized leadership, glory, war, and death. Rome's Mars was a late development of a much older Sabine fertility god, born of the famous Capitoline trinity of Juvenatus, Juno, and Minerva, killed each year to be resurrected like all other vegetation gods. He, in turn, might be traced back to the pre-Vedic red god Rudra, entitled Triambaka, he who belongs to the three mother goddesses. In his native land, Rudra merged with both Shiva and Krishna, who expounded the secrets of fate to Prince Arjuna in the guise of the divine charioteer. That's one of my favorites, Mahabharata. Read that again. In his native land, Rudra merged with both Shiva and Krishna, who expounded the secrets of fate to Prince Arjuna in the guise of a divine charioteer. That the secrets of fate involved the consciousness of death was already documented as early as the 3rd millennium BC in Akkad. Halfway between India and Europe, there, the road to death was called either the road of no return or the road of the chariot. Red chariot riding horses who passed from high glory to a martyr's death frequently personified the sun, as in Greek myths of Hippolytus, Phaethon, and Helios. People of Northern Europe called the rider of the sun chariot Njord, the first god of the Swedes before Odin brought other deities from Asia. Njord represented the declining sun in the latter half of the year, while his alter ego Frey signified the waxing sun in the first half. Together, Njord and Frey were the Blotgodar, blood gods, alternately sacrificing each other like Horus and Set in Egypt. Each year at Yuletide, when Frey was reborn during the 12 days of the winter solstice, it was a taboo for any person to allow chariot wheels to roll for any reason. For 12 days, no chariot movement, man. Aryan sacred kings from India to Ireland were assimilated in the divine chariot rider. Even their titles showed a common source. Vedic Raj, king, was the same as the Latin reg or rex, Celtic rig, Frankish roy. That's why I appreciate Travis Major so much, because now that he's pointed it out, I make the connection much easier, that you see that the Vedic information is actually source information. Not to say that Egyptian isn't, but the Vedic information is clearly, what's the best word? Because, I was going to say clearly older, However, different sources that tell you that Egypt is older, and then the other sources that tell you that, Hindu sources are older. Clearly, the written documentation of the Hindu sources are much older. Egypt happens to have much more writing. It's clear that Egypt borrowed from every source they could get. You listen to Bobby Hemmett, the Indus Kush Valley, they were all black, or they were all Egyptians, right? But I just want to say, I want to choose my words carefully, because Egypt is, of course, a touchy subject for most. But clearly, there was a transmigration. And this transmigration, I would say, again, in terms of the written information, India would have the most, because Egypt kind of sprang out of nowhere. And so that's that gap. Who was it? Manetho, he stated that, how far back they go. A lot of people discredit that history, which I don't. But at some point, Egypt did appear to just pop up fully developed. So there's that. Pagan riders of the sun chariot merged with the sacred king of the wood in the Breton code of Diana, Nemetona, and entered the realm of romance in Chrétien de Troyes' famous poem, Les Chevaliers de Chevrette, the Knight of the Chariot. As in all romances, the drama allegorized religious beliefs that have been forbidden and grafted them onto a tale of courtly love. According to the Platonic ideas set forth in the Phaedrus and disseminated by medieval scholars, the charioteer represented the human soul. Heavenly charioteers rode the celestial airs until they lost their winged vehicles and fell to earth to be born as human beings. Then comes the imprisonment in the body until Eros gives the soul strength enough to make a new ascent. We just talked about the spirals of the figure eight, right? It's not a flat surface. It's not a linear concept. It's a spiraling one. And like the DNA, it goes up and down, but as you unlock it, you ascend. Where am I at? Oriental philosophers often refer to the soul or mind as the body's chariot. Heard that before. And to sensual desires as its horses. If you ever get a chance, go to Google, type in, they just mentioned Arjuna and the chariot from the Mahabharata. Go there, go to Google, type up the meaning of the chariot, and it'll show you that the horses, I think, represent willpower. The chariot represents the body. The driver is the whips of the straps that you guide the horse with. I think that's the mind, and goes on and on and on. So yeah, nothing new about that. On a macrocosmic scale, the great god Jagannatha is the oversoul riding the chariot of the world body. According to the Katha Upanishad, the horses of desire must be firmly reined, the reins, that's what I'm talking about, the reins, must be firmly reined in by the inner charioteer. The sage is one who has controlled the senses, is a truth seeker, ever engaged in worship, and who has sacrificed lust and all other passions. Carl Jung also pointed out that in the symbolism of dreams and fantasies, horses usually represent uncontrollable emotional drives. The horse of the Tarot chariot merits some close study. Always of two contrasting colors like day and night, Luna, Suna, masculine, feminine, order, chaos, and go on and on with that. Yin, yang, They were sometimes recognizable horses, sometimes dog-like animals like the lunar death dogs, sometimes sphinxes with female breasts. Oh, we see that here. We got the breast assist. Breast assist. What was that? Sometimes a strange two-headed creature with four forelegs and no hind legs. That's not here. And again, let me back it up. What I have up here for the Chariot, to the left is the Builders of Adetium, the Volta card with the number 7, the Chariot, and then I think that's Chet. The Hebrew alphabet letter is Chet for Chariot. And then to the right is the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. You can see the similarities as well as you can see the differences. Clearly, I'm more I'm biased towards the Volta deck. I like it because it seems to be more expressive than the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. Where was I at? Oh, excuse me. Oh, here we go. The horses, the Tarot Chariot merit some close study. Always of two contrasted colors, like day and night. They were sometimes recognizable horses, sometimes dog-like animals, like the lunar death dogs, sometimes sphinxes with female breasts, sometimes a strange two-headed creature with 4 forelegs and no hind legs, facing opposite directions like a push me, pull you. Now that's a saying, push me, pull you. Probably something from the 40s or 50s. Some old school game, maybe even older than that. Push me, pull you. That brings to mind like Chinese finger puzzle. This may have been a copy of the Egyptian hieroglyph of Zerefu and Akeru, the lions of yesterday and today. I posted about them on, I believe, Instagram recently. I love how it all lines up. Matter of fact, not recently, just like today is Sunday morning, so maybe like Wednesday, Thursday last week. Yeah. About to go back to that because I was totally unconscious. The lions of yesterday and today. The secret meaning of this was that the Mother Hathor, the Sphinx, governed the passage of time, and in his guise always devoured heroes, no matter how glorious or timeless their earthly deeds seemed to make them. Oddly enough, the Tarot charioteer seldom drove his chariot. Most packs showed him without reins. That's a good question. I mean, that's a good statement. Because you see here, neither one has reins. He simply stood erect in his vehicle while his beasts went their own ways, heading in opposite directions, as if they would eventually tear the chariot apart. The message may have been a corollary to the message of the death card. Man is not in control of his fate, even when he thinks he is. Or, sages continually emphasize the futility of pride and earthly glories, which were only a hand dealt by fate, karma, soon to be replaced. A proud hero had yet to attain the wisdom of the true self, which could realize the inexorable turning of the karmic wheel, as unstoppable as a juggernaut chariot. He who has seen his true self looks down upon transmigrating existence as upon a rolling chariot wheel. Unstoppable, my nigga. During the Renaissance in Europe, pageants and parades were staged in the same manner as the ancient Roman triumph, to display celebrities riding in chariots along with allegorical figures of mythological origin. Sometimes, instead of promenading through public streets for the admiration of the masses, a chariot procession was organized as a private entertainment for the inhabitants of a castle. Decorated chariots moved around and around a central courtyard to be viewed from inner windows. This was known as a carousel, a round of chariots. I did not know the carousel was related to chariots. Wow. To occupy the chariot is no longer a siege perilous, yet the tarot message is not inappropriate for modern heroes. As the subsequent trump card made clearer and clearer, the newly married aspirant to worldly success must take care that the road of the chariot does not lead to hell. Oh, I thoroughly adore Barbara G. Walker. Thoroughly. Next, I am going to you know what? I got the Richard Cavendish book, and I started reading it on my own. But I'm going to go directly to his breakdown on Le Chariot. We go to this is Richard Cavendish, and it's just the title was just Tarot, I believe. The title was The Tarot by Richard Cavendish. So let's go to the major arcana, the 22 trumps. Let's see. Richard Cavendish happens to be one of my favorite authors. I can't wait to dive to really go through this. Now hear about the let's see here. Chariot represents the 8th path. Let me look on this chart he has here. It says paths 8. What is that a pass on here? That's it. All right. The chariot is the path between Bina and Geburah. All right, let's see what he has to say. Chariot, Chet. Okay, it says here it has paths, trumps, Hebrew letters, elements, planets, zodiac, deities, animals, plants. So under paths, it's the 8th path. Trump is the chariot. Hebrew letter is Heth or Chet. Elements, planets, zodiac, Cancer, deities, Kepra and Apollo. I've had some interesting breakthroughs on Kepra in the past. Animals, crab, turtle, sphinx. Okay. And plants will be the lotus. Lotus is peculiar because it's a beautiful flower, but it sits in the muck. Okay, let's go to the chariot and see what Richard Cavendish has to say about the chariot. Wish I had this book at the beginning and we could have been rocking and rolling throughout the gate with it. Let's see. Okay. Okay, here we go. That's the lovers. Let's see what he has to say about Le Chariot. Okay, the chariot. In the ascent of the tree, the path of the chariot is the first which crosses the abyss, and the card is always treated as a symbol of triumph, the victory of the soul which has conquered on one plane and now rises higher. It may originally have been based on the old Roman custom of triumph awarded to a successful general. I want to look forward a little bit. He has some different images. Oh man, this book is dope. Okay, he says it may originally have been based on the old Roman custom of the triumph awarded to a successful general, which was revived for their own glorification by Renaissance strongmen in Italy. In 1326, for example, Excuse me. Says in 1326, for example, Kyne rode into a city of Lucca as a Roman victor in a chariot, with the prisoners he had taken on campaign being driven before him through the streets. When Alfonso the Great of Aragon, who had a similar taste for classical antiquities, made his state entry into conquered Naples in 1443. He was enthroned on a triumphal car drawn by 4 white horses with a canopy of cloth of gold above his head. There was also a well-known medieval and Renaissance type of Mars and Fury riding in a horse-drawn chariot. Both Petrarch and Chaucer describe the god of war in this way. And the imagery goes back to a 12th century text intended to bring out the hidden meanings of classical myths. Liber Imaginum Deorum, oh, she mentioned this too, by an obscure author named Albricus. When I say she, Barbara G. Walker mentioned the same book. Painters show Mars in a chariot, helmeted and wielding a whip or sword. See, that's what brings Abraxas to mind for me. But nobody's going to make this Abraxas connection. I'm not saying I'm going to be the first, but I'd be surprised if someone, Manly P. Hall might outright mention Abraxas. Do I got Manly P. Hall's book out here? Yeah, I do. So we'll get to it. Painters showed Mars in a chariot, helmeted and wielding a whip or sword. The Mars of the Mantegna cards followed this pattern. In the chariot of Charles the Sixth pack, the warrior brandishes a battle axe. In later packs, he is more often holding a scepter. Here he appears to be holding a wand. The chariot is one of the cards which Eliphas Levi rectified and weight based their designs on his. Among other alterations, he changed the horses pulling the triumphal car into 2 sphinxes, one black and one white. Levi interpreted the card as a symbol of magical power in all its fullness, and his 2 sphinxes stood for the opposites yoked together to draw the chariot. He said that sphinxes stood for the He said that the angel with the flaming sword who guarded the gate of Eden after the expulsion of Adam and Eve from the garden had the form of a sphinx with the human head on the body of a bull. Like the winged man-headed bulls of ancient Mesopotamian art. The charioteer in Levi's card is both the angel who guards paradise and man who regains it. Now he has some dope images in here. I'm not going to attempt to show it to you because of the glare, but I will read it to you. It says, above is God seated in a fiery chariot, and William Blake's painting of the Lord passing judgment on Adam. Opposite 3 cards in which the charioteer bears different weapons, left to right. He has one where he's holding a scepter, which clearly the bolted deck and the right away is similar to a scepter, or you could say a rod or a staff or wand. Opposite 3 cards in which charioteer bears different weapons. Left to right, a scepter. Center, a sword. Held by Mars of the Mantegna pack, and a battle axe carried by the warrior. And that's in Charles VI. That's the 6th pack. The charioteer is not driving the triumphal car, but being drawn along with it. That's why he doesn't need reins. The card marks the release from earthly bondage of the adept's true and higher self. The need for control. If it all worked out, you don't need reins. If you know it's going to all work out in the end, you just continue to do the work. in an emotional and spiritual rapture which sets him free to soar beyond the normal limits of human consciousness into a communion with the divine. In Crowley's design of the charioteer is a mailed knight who bears the Holy Grail in the form of a circular dish. The card corresponds to the process called exaltation in alchemy, the achievement of a peak of mystical ecstasy in which the alchemist himself became the philosopher's stone, the summit of all earthly aspiration, the perfect substance which metaphorically turned everything it touched into gold. The remaining trumps following the chariot show stages in the discovery and development of the true self, roughly in parallel with the alchemical processes which led up to the making of the stone. Just as the chariot stands for a triumphal rise above mortal conditions and the ascent of the tree, so conversely in the chariot, it refers to the myth of the fall and its consequences. When God discovered that Adam had eaten the forbidden fruit, he said, "Behold, the man has become like one of us." To prevent Adam and Eve from eating the fruit of the tree of life and becoming immortal, he drove them out of Eden and set the angel with the flaming sword to guard it. And then Adam knew Eve, his wife, and she conceived. The charioteer is man, become like one of us, the progenitor of a child in his image, as God had made man in the divine image. This theme is continued in the interpretation of the following cards. Levy placed on the front of the triumphal card the Indian symbol of the lingam and the yoni combined in the joining of the sexes, surmounted by a winged globe. Oh, that is the lingam, the yoni and the lingam, huh? That's why Barbara G. Walker kept making the Vedic connections. What was I? In some of the older packs, the letters VT can be seen on the front of the chariot. If read from right to left, they could be taken to spell out the Hebrew letter Tav, the T cross, which again stands for union of the sexes or the opposites. But another consequence of the fall was death. And the chariot is also an emblem of death and punishment. We get that from the Juggernaut and the Shiva correspondence, correct? But another consequence of the fall was death. And the chariot is also an emblem of death and punishment. Its path lies on the left-hand pillar of the tree, the hermetic, the punishing side. Mm-hmm. I think I skipped the page. The punishing side of the divine and joins Binah with Gevurah, the Sephirah of fierce, destructive force corresponding to Mars. Conversely, again, reading up the tree, the card stands for the conquest of death. So it also symbolizes the overcoming of death. Sorry about this. Let's see. Right. 1G400. All right, let's do it. So, interpretations of the chariot have been influenced by Merkaba mysticism, which was an earlier variety of Jewish mysticism earlier than Kabbalah. Its object of aspiration was the chariot or throne of God, seen in the vision described in the first chapter of Ezekiel. It was the Merkaba which was reached by the ascent or descent, some said. going back to that spiral, right? Though the Hekaloth, the heavenly halls, and it stood in the seventh of them. The Chariot's number in the tarot is 7, and one of the titles of the Sephir Bina is the throne. The being seen by Ezekiel, the chariot throne, was a likeness as if it were a human form, guarded by the 4 sphinx-like living creatures, shown in Crowley's version of the card. The chariot is placed on the pillar of severity, and the experience of the macabre mystics was of the awesome and fearful power of the Almighty. Rather than the divine love and mercy, there was a tendency to identify the figure on the throne as the demiurge, the creator of the visible world, not as the evil being which was in the Gnostic theory, but as an aspect of the ultimate Godhead. I finally understood demiurge being a craftsman. I don't know why it took this to lock it in. I always wondered why the Greek meaning for demiurge was workman and craftsman. That's because he's the creator. God made the world in 6 days. Look, I just made the connection. He's finna nail it in. God made the world in 6 days, according to Genesis, and rested on the 7th. One of the victories which the chariot celebrates is this achievement of the creator or demiurge, shown triumphant in the chariot of the world he made. The crescent moons on the charioteer's shoulders are also connected with the number 7. Each phase of the moon cycle is completed in 7 days. And in numerology, 7 governs the underlying rhythms of the universe. Right, real quick, let's go to see what Paul Foster Case has to say about the number 7. Page 6. Let's go to 7. Too exhaustive the meanings of 7. To exhaust the meanings of 7 would take as many pages as an encyclopedia. It is the great biblical number. Many books in the Old and New Testaments being written on the plan of 7. 7 chapters, 7 subdivisions, and so on. On this point, see the literary introductions in Moulton's Modern Reader's Bible. The more important occult meanings of 7 are rest, safety, security, victory, to Venus, to the ancient 7 represented temporary cessation, not final perfection as some have thought. In Hebrew, the word for 7, that for oath, are closely related, since the security and safety of a sworn compact were represented in Hebrew thought by 7. Read that again. In Hebrew, the word for 7 and that of oath are closely related, since the security and safety of a sworn compact were represented in Hebrew thought by 7. This number stands for the logical consequence of ideas symbolized by the numbers preceding it in the series. A perfect life power working in the way outlined in the explanation of 6 cannot be supposed to fail. Omnipotence must ultimately, no matter what present appearance may be, arrive at a triumphantly successful conclusion to all its undertakings. The great work is as yet unfinished. The cosmic experiment has not come to completion. But when we consider the nature of the source of the experiment, the nature of the worker in that work, the reason assures us that it must succeed down to the minutest detail. The aspect of consciousness to which 7 corresponds is called the occult or hidden intelligence, which is the hermetic path. Something struck me there about the number 7, because we always assume in Western society, most assume that 7 represents Sunday, day of rest. However, the original meaning is Saturday. I believe it's Shabbatai, something like that. From labor to rest, right? On the 7th day, God rested. Sunday is actually the first day. So a lot of people assume that 7 represents perfection, but perfection is actually represented in number 10. Number 10 is also an allusion to the goddess Io, or masculine and feminine, 1 and 0. Let's move on. Let's go back. God made the world in 6 days, according to Genesis, and rested on the 7th. And one of the victories which the Chariot celebrates is this achievement of the creator or demiurge, shown triumphant in the chariot of the world he made. The crescent moons on a charioteer's shoulder are also connected with the number 7. Each phase of the moon cycle is complete in 7 days, and in numerology, 7 governs the underlying rhythms of the universe. The 4 pillars upon which support the canopy of the chariot are the 4 elements of which the world is made, or in modern occultism, the 4 conditions in which energy can exist. Electricity, which is electricity, fire; the gaseous state, air; liquid state, water; solid state, earth. Each pillar is divided into 2 equal parts, which represents above and below. Yeah, on above aspect, we have the clouded canopy, right? We have the starry decked heaven. Oh, this is slick, a dope card. This is very expressive. Let's go back. Each pillar is divided into 2 equal parts, which represents above and below, as do the star-spangled canopy itself and the cubical body of the chariot below. The 2 sphinxes or horses stand for spirit and matter, soul and body, intellect and emotion. Plato in the Phaedrus spoke of the lover's soul as a chariot driving 2 winged horses, the noble steed of reason and the ignoble one of passion and desire. That's why they're not reined in. You would have to have control of them, not by force. The crab and the turtle of the correspondences, at home both on land and in water, again suggests the union of above and below, as does the Sphinx, which combines a human head with an animal body. Jung regarded the Sphinx as a symbol of the terrible mother, the female principle in its destroying and hideous aspect, which fits in well with the chariot's path and retreat. The Sphinx also stands for the enigma, the mystery, the riddle which the charioteers solve. The lotus, like the rose, is a symbol of woman in paradise. Cancer is the sign of the sun at the summer solstice and the god Apollo. The ideal type of male beauty in Greek art was often pictured riding in the chariot of the sun. The Egyptian god Kepler was also connected with the sun. He had the head of a scarab or dung beetle, which rolls its eggs laboriously along in a ball of dung. Laboriously, labor to rest. Along in a ball of dung, and so became an emblem of the life-giving ball of the sun rolling up from the darkness of the underworld into the morning sky. Sir Wallace Budge, whose books on Egyptian religion and magic have had considerable influence on occultists, said that Kepler stood for matter, which contains within itself the germ of life, which is about to spring into a new existence. So we have an image here. Let me see if I can show it. Maybe the glare will forgive me. Oh, pretty good. Hopefully you can get a good look at the image. I read what it says, though. It says, the Virgin Mary in the walled garden of paradise, a garden enclosed. The Virgin Mary in the walled garden of paradise, a garden enclosed is my sister, my spouse. The Little Paradise Garden by an anonymous painter, early 15th century. Overleaf left. The lovers. Overleaf left. Lovers. And then it says, I mentioned on the other side. But I say, I don't see the lovers. Okay, so here's the lovers in the chariot. Okay. I'll show you these images since it seems like this one. This is the lovers. You see the masculine and feminine, and then you see the deity in the center. This deity is represented as a nude figure, androgynous, blindfolded, and apparently carrying two staffs or staves. And then the other image is that of the chariot. Hopefully it lets you get it in. Not fucking with you. All right, it's all good. And that's all we have from Richard Cavendish on the chariot, which is, to me, very informative. Let's see what Manly P has to say. This is going to end up being a two-parter. I can feel it. Got a late start. And my house is about to wake up. And when my house wakes up, it is unforgiving. Everybody know what I do. And I have become like background noise. They will keep moving around me. Whether I'm talking on YouTube or doing an interview. And I actually love it. Because that means it means that my studies have reached a subconscious level, even in the home. And I love that. So I'm gonna try to go a good 30 more minutes, I guess. About 6:30, I'll wrap it up. Okay. We are at the chariot. Sipping on some scissor. Sipping on some scissor. All right. Here we go. And what Manly P says is the seventh numbered major trump is called a chariot, the chariot, and portrays a victorious warrior crowned and riding a chariot drawn by black and white sphinxes or horses. The starry canopy of the chariot is upheld by four columns. Starry decked heavens. This card signifies the exalted one who rides in the chariot of creation. The vehicle of solar energy being numbered 7 reveals the arcane truth that the 7 planers are the chariots of the solar power which rides victorious in their midst. The 4 columns supporting the canopy represent the 4 mighty ones who uphold the worlds represented by the star-strewn drapery. The figure carries a scepter of the solar energy and its shoulders are ornamented with lunar crescents. The Urim and Thummim. I'm going to look them up. I forget. I know it's part of the priestly accoutrements of Aaron. The sphinxes drawing the chariot resent the secret. I think he meant to say represent. He says the sphinxes drawing the chariot resent the secret and unknown power by which the victorious. No, yeah, he means represent. The sphinxes drawing the chariot represent the secret and unknown power by which the victorious ruler is moved continuously through various parts of the universe, because he clearly doesn't have reins. He appears to be at rest, but we know that he's not, right? In certain tarot decks, the victor signifies the regenerated man, for the body of the chariot is a cubic stone. The man in armor is not standing in the chariot, but is rising out of the cube. I did not recognize that. Damn it, man. NAP is a beast. He says the man in armor is not standing in the chariot, but is rising out of the cubic stone, thus typifying the ascension of the three out of the four, and turning upward of the flap of the master mason's apron. The last part kind of threw me. The man in armor is not standing in a chariot, but rising out of the cube, thus typifying the ascension of the three out of the four. Now look, the bolted deck, the cubic stone is clearly cut open. He's still coming out of the cube, but it has a more of a chariot look, but it's still, you can see it's a box. However, in this instance, I prefer the Rider-Waite deck because he literally is coming out of that stone, essentially standing on the square. And then on the bolted deck, look at, would that be the tau, the emblem on his neck? Have to look at it and see. I'll leave that alone for now. Oh man, always been messing it up. No, let me see. Let me go back so I can get it. Not there. Let's go here. Let's go here. Let me get back to the good part, which is here. Oh man, what the heck did you do, Mike? I'm always doing something. Dream, jolly, jolly. There we go. All right. Okay. Where was I at? The man in armor is not standing in the chariot, but is rising out of the cube, thus typifying the ascension of the three out of the four, the turning upward of the flap of the master mason's apron. In the pseudo-Egyptian tarot, the warrior carries the curved sword of Luna, is bearded to signify maturity, and wears the collar of the planetary orbits. I think here he's wearing the planetary orbits around his waist, possibly. His scepter, emblematic of the threefold universe, is crowned with a square, upon which is a circle surmounted by a triangle. Let's read that again. His scepter, emblematic of the threefold universe, is crowned with a square, upon which is a circle surmounted by a triangle. Well, what did it? The eighth numbered major trump is oh, we're on 8 already. I was messed up. All right. Let's go to Waite. This brief ass. Well, before we get to Waite, let me see what this is. Teach Yourself Tarot the Quick and Easy Way by Philip Cooper. Let's see what he has to say about the chariot. Namaha. Okay, the Chariot synopsis: a triumphant new path going forward with success, a time to move forward once started. Progress will be rapid and completely successful. General description: a crowned figure stands in a chariot drawn by two sphinxes, one black and one white. The chariot has a canopy which is decorated by stars, and the driver wears armor, the front of which is adorned by an illuminated square. The chariot is immobile, the sphinx is ready to spring into action once the word of command is given. The driver is in control of his psychic energy. I concur. Let's go to the Rider-Waite. You might just be able to rock this, thug this out, man. I'll just keep it a little shorter. Let's go to Mahalakshmi Namaha. Okay, here is the pictorial key to the tarot by Arthur Edward Waite. He is one of the co-creators of the Rider-Waite Smith deck. And he is so brief that it's kind of mind-boggling. An erect and princely figure carrying a drawn sword. That's clearly not a sword. And corresponding, now that's his card on the right on the screen you're looking at, right? Excuse me. An erect and princely figure carrying a drawn sword and corresponding, broadly speaking, to the traditional description which I have given in the first part. First part of what, pimp? Oh, I know you're talking about part one. Oh, veils and symbols. I think I skipped this in this book. I think I went directly to the tarot correspondences. So I'm gonna have to go back now. He says, an erect and princely figure carrying a drawn sword and corresponding, broadly speaking, to the traditional description which I have given in the first part. On the shoulders of the victorious hero are supposed to be the Urim and Thummim. On the shoulders, Urim and Thummim, huh? He has led, he has led captivity, he has led captivity captive. He is conquest on all planes, in the mind, in science, in progress, in certain trials of initiation. He has thus replied to the Sphinx, and it is on this account that I have accepted the variation of a life as living. Two sphinxes thus draw his chariot. He is above all things, triumph in the mind. It is to be understood for this reason, A, that the question of the Sphinx is concerned with a mystery of nature and not of the world of grace to which the charioteer could offer no answer. B, that the planes of his conquest are manifest or external and not within him. C, so that means that the charioteer has reigns over this material world, right? I mean, he has conquered materiality, material existence. C, that the liberation which he effects may leave himself in the bondage of the logical understanding. Let's read that again. That the liberation which he effects may leave himself in the bondage of the logical understanding. D, that the tests of initiation through which he has passed in triumph are to be understood physically or rationally. And E, that if he came to the pillars of that temple between which the high priest is seated, he could not open the scroll where the high priestess is seated. He could not open the scroll called Torah, nor if she questioned him could he answer. He is not hereditary royalty, and he is not priesthood. So the chariot is not piercing the veil. Well, that makes sense. If the planes that he mastered are material, we got the winged solar disk. That's the sun, but I believe it also represents the mind. but behind him is civilization. All right. Let's see what Paul Foster Case has to say about this. Okay, Paul Foster Case, The Tarot, Key to the Wisdom of Ages. Triple towel on, that's that red plate. It has a triple towel on it. Chet, CH and H as in help, evaluate, is pronounced Hayat. Hayat, Hayat. It means a field and the fence enclosing it. Fence suggests enclosure, protection, defense, specific location, fixed location, an area set apart for cultivation. It also implies a shielding, safeguard, refuge, safety. Thus, it corresponds to the ideas represented by the words carapace and shell. That's where the crab and turtle comes in there. The idea of location refers back to house or bet. I love how it always ping pongs back and forth. You know, from the first card to the next, and back to the first, and to the next, and back to the second. Man, I kind of don't want to get into this if I can't finish it. Man. All right, let's do it. We're going to try to thug it out. Maybe everybody will sleep in a little later. Says the idea of location refers back to house or beth, as does that of shelter. A cultivated field is in contrast to the open country pictured in key 6. Cultivation again is suggested by the gardens of the magician and the empress. Again, the enclosure of a particular area by a fence is what happens in the mental world when we define anything, so that chet is also related to hay, considered as the definite article. Speech is the human function attributed to chet by Kabbalists. Speech defines words are like fences enclosing particular fields of consciousness. The field of speech continually engages the labors of the practical occultist and the applied psychologist. The attribution of speech to Chet therefore indicates that words have preservative and protective power, that right use of language is a means to safety. Extend the meaning of speech from the spoken word to the unspoken words of thought, and you will understand why the wise have always attached so much importance to right speech. Intelligence of the house of influence is the Kabbalistic name for this mode of consciousness corresponding to Chet. Literally, it is consciousness of that which is the abode of inflowing power. It is consciousness of the fact that human personality is like a fenced-in area wherein universal forces are at work. These forces flow into the personality from beyond its boundaries, taking form in the silent speech of thought and finding utterance in the spoken word. They flow out through personality into actual expression and manifestation. East below is represented on the cube of space by the line or edge connecting the lower ends. Okay, let's do it like we always do about this time. Let me find. Here we go. Let's get this out the way. And blow this up just a taste. Okay, so we're looking for Le Chariot. East below. Down here at the bottom. Number 7, bottom right. So what does he say here? East below is represented on the cube of space by the line or edge connecting the lower ends of the vertical lines northeast and southeast. Northeast and southeast. That was interesting. I drifted off. I had it reminded me of something very Masonic. Got to give it some thought real quick. This edge marks the junction of the eastern and bottom faces of the cube, attributed respectively to Daleth and Venus, and to Gimel and the moon, keys 3 and 2, the Empress and the High Priestess. Here is an intimation that though self-conscious elements are involved, the mental activities symbolized by key 7 are carried out at the subconscious level. I thought this was from Waite's description. I started formulating in my mind that this card was external, right? Because biblically speaking, Eve came from Adam's rib. She was internal. She's subconscious, right? And we'll see. A little self-study will convince you that your thought and speech are largely, of course, your thought and speech are largely subconscious in origin. Your vocabulary depends on subconscious associative processes. Your sentences, your style, your figures of speech, all these take shape below the self-conscious level. That's like having an accent. A lot of times when I listen to myself speak, like if I do an interview or something like that, I'm amazed at how I pronounce certain words. I say to myself, I sound country as hell. And I was born right here in California. It's amazing. These are subconscious things. Cancer the crab, a cardinal watery sign, is attributed to Chet. Here we see the connection between the letter name fence and the crab's hard carapace. Cancer is ruled by the moon, key 2, High Priestess, and the planet Jupiter, key 10, the Wheel of Fortune, is exalted therein. Cancer governs the breast, the chest, offensive bones, and the stomach. It is a psychic receptive sign. Its natives are said by astrologers to be endowed with tenacious memory. All this is in accordance with the basic meanings of the letter named Chet. In our color scale, the tint assigned to Cancer is orange yellow. The corresponding musical note is D sharp or E flat. I'm just looking now. He said the color is orange, right? Our color scale 10 sign is orange yellow. Let me see what in Cabalistic Tarot. What does he have for the color of Yesod? And he has a purple. The orange is hold. The sun. Oh, here on Malkuth, it's orange. All righty then. The Chariot is the usual title of key 7. Sometimes it is the charioteer, which is even better, since the picture, as Dr. Wade says, is really the king in his triumph, typifying, however, the victory which creates kinship as its natural consequence. Note that the number of the card 7 is that to which Kabbalists assign the idea of victory. And victory is hold, I believe, right? Yes, hold. No. So Zion is the kingdom and the glory and the victory. I'm slipping. I should know this off rip. In the background is a walled city. The wall is a stone fence. The city is a collection of houses corresponding to the ideas relating to Beth and the magician. The windows of some of the buildings are clearly shown, indicating that what is represented by hay is, and the emperor is also behind the surface meanings of key set. Let me go back. In the background is a walled city. The wall is a stone fence. The city is a collection of houses corresponding to the ideas relating to Beth and the magician. The windows of some of the buildings are clearly shown, indicating what is represented by hay, and the emperor is also behind the surface. Oh, okay, because the emperor represents windows. The wall, however, is what most clearly establishes the correspondence of this trump to Chet and the fence. Trees and the river in the middle distance reminds us of the symbolism of key 3, the empress. This is correct because speech is not only composed of definitions, but also embodies mental imagery, empress, and gives form to the stream of consciousness. So that's why I have to remember that in Tarot, when you see a stream, it's always indicative of water. Come on, man, I don't do me like this. I'll fuck it. Lean with it, rock with it. Trees in a river in the middle distance remind us of the symbolism of key 3, the empress. This is correct because speech is not only composed of definitions, but also embodies mental imagery, empress, and gives form to the stream of consciousness. That's the lunar symbology, the crescents on the shoulders. Those all allude to the empress. And gives form to the stream of consciousness. As the river in Tarot rises from the watery substance of the robe of the high priestess, as trees are associated with the rich fertility of the empress's garden, here too is the combination suggested by east empress, below high priestess. Oh, okay. The chariot itself is a movable fence corresponding to the letter Chet. Its body is a cube, carrying out the symbolism of the cubes whereon the high priestess and emperor sit. Moreover, it is of gray stone so that it combines the notions of wisdom, gray, and of the union of the Father and Son suggested by the Cabalistic meaning of ABN, ebon, stone. Surrounding the body of the chariot are 4 pillars supporting the starry canopy. The number 4 is a number of order and measurement. It refers also to the 4 elements: fire, water, air, earth. Each pillar is divided into 2 equal parts, reminding us of the Hermetic axiom, as above, so below. The point of division at the center of each pillar is surrounded by a ring. This is a symbol of spirit. I was just thinking, when you see 4, the 5th is there. So the 4 elements are represented. So we know that the 5th spirit is somewhere in the image. The point of division at the center of each pillar is surrounded by a ring. This is a symbol of spirit, for the rings are circles like 0 signs. The idea is that each of the 4 elements is encircled by the one spirit. The starry canopy represents the celestial forces that are sent into the physical plane through the activita of the 4 elements is the cause of all external manifestation. Thus, the stars in the azure canopy symbolize the correlation of the influences of distant suns and planets of the zodiacal constellations and of human forces. This canopy therefore represents the forces which surround the earth and seem to be above us in the sky. It represents also the subtle metaphysical forces which are above the level of personality. It is therefore a symbol of what Eliphas Levi called astral light. I'm going to stop here because I'm starting to subconsciously rush, and that I refuse to do. So what we're going to do is when we come back, we're going to double back on this Paul Foster case information, follow it up with the Cabalistic Tarot, the Fortune, and then I also want to look up some of these deities mentioned, even though before I have trouble researching the demiurge in some of my encyclopedia of deities, although I know Barbara G. Walker touches on it. I'm sure my book of symbology touches on it. So this will be part A to the Chariot. Thank you for your patience. Hopefully, just in this little bit, in this part one, some connections were made for you. Definitely worked for me. I was hoping to hear more about Abraxas. So what I'll definitely do then, because I didn't have time before, is I find the books that I have on Abraxas. I definitely have PDFs on Abraxas. So at the very least, I'll break out those books. If I have to, I'll print out the Abraxas information I have in PDF, and we're going to make this correlation between Abraxas and the Chariot. I think that's going to be pretty dope. All right. As always, thank you for spending this time with me. I said I would give away a book. We're going to find it. We're going to get this book away. Man, I'm kind of looking now like, do I want to get this away? Shoot, hardcover joint, you know what I'm saying? Mystical Kabbalah, Dion Fortune, Brand Nubian, you know? Man, this thing fire. So, dang, a lightweight don't want to get rid of this sucker. Why am I going to do that? What chapter is that? Does this book have a different orientation than the other one I have? I don't know. Oh, that's my bad, babe. I'm sorry. I turned it off. I came in and walked straight out. Sorry about that. All right. If you want this book, hit me up in a comment. What's the title of my book? And that'll be that. Thank you for your time. We're going to wrap this up, and hopefully we'll get part 2 in by next weekend. Hopefully. Until then, man, thanks for spending this time with me. If you haven't already, hit that like button, subscribe, and enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Namaha.